All right, have you posted it, Kurt? Not seeing it. Thank you.
Colleagues, I'll start the share screen and then I'll take it off at the hour. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. Just to check though, surely we should wait to see how many participants are in or not? Should we start right on the hour? Because it's...
I will let everyone in now. I'll let everyone in now and then I'll do the stop share.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. I think if we've got more than 20 or 15 people, we can proceed, especially if many people from the class are here, we can proceed. Others are participants.
Thank you, colleagues. I'm going live.
Good evening, colleagues. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us this evening. We are so pleased to be spending the next hour and a bit of time with you. As a student body, we would like to extend a special thank you to our acting dean and head of Gsb&L, Professor Anna Martins, for hosting this webinar series. We'd also like to say thank you to our faculty team led by Dr. Basela Yalezo for coordinating this event, and most notably a special thank you to Dr. Simpiwe Patrick Madikizela, who is our keynote speaker this evening. Without a doubt, we definitely are operating in uncertain times, and the coronavirus has made the adage business as usual a phrase of the past. Across the globe, organizations need strategies to enable them to balance the immediate needs of the customers, of employees, and society at large while remaining competitive. To explore this further, this evening we will be discussing the crafting and implementation of business strategies during the COVID-19 pandemic. Momentarily, I will be handing over to Mr. M. Vilagazi, who will give us our welcome address. Then he will be followed by Mr. Ndumiso Mavundla, who will introduce our keynote speaker, that will be Dr. Madikizela. After Dr. Madikizela's keynote, we will have an opportunity to engage with him. We will have an interactive Q&A session. And then finally, we will hand over to Dr. Baso Yalezo, who will give us a vote of thanks. Without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Mr. M. Vilagazi for a welcome address.
Thank you, Mtabisang. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mlondi Vilagazi, coordinator for the program, MCLS program at the Graduate School of Business and Leadership. As the University of KwaZulu-Natal's GSB, we are happy to be hosting this webinar in an age of uncertainty. The topic for today's webinar is crafting and implementing business strategies during the COVID-19 pandemic uncertainty. COVID-19 is still with us and will be here with us for the foreseeable future. A country like South Africa faces many problems regarding economic growth and development, and the strategies, especially from the private sector, will be the most important in this regard. The country faces challenges even before COVID-19. These have been exacerbated now during this great lockdown, as in the words of IMF's chief economist, Dr. Gita Gopinath. South Africa and the African region need clear strategies to come out of this quagmire that has gripped the world. Business strategies and ideas have proven through empirical research to be the backbone of any well-functioning economy. I do know that our esteemed guest this evening, Dr. Matikizela, will give us a more of how we can navigate the pandemic using business strategies. I would like to welcome our guest speaker to the Graduate School of Business and Leadership of University of KwaZulu-Natal and extend thanks to my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Pasela Yaleza, for organizing such a webinar. Last but not least, I thank also and welcome all our attendees this evening. I hope you will leave here with an enriched and a very nice evening. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Vilakazi. I see Dumiso Mavundla has joined us. I'm going to hand over to you, colleague, to welcome our keynote speaker. Just unmute yourself, please.
Sorry. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dumiso Mavundla. I will be introducing our guest speaker today, which is Dr. Simphiwe Matikizela. So looking at the content we've covered the past 4 days, I'm excited to be part of this lecture, which is crafting and implementing a strategy during the COVID-19 pandemic. I don't think that we could have selected a better theme to end this series of lectures than this one that we have today. So Dr. Matikizela is well experienced in planning and implementation of business strategies. He undertook various portfolios with the likes of FNB, National Housing Finance Development Bank of South Africa, IPA Development, and V3 Consulting, which I am very aware of since I am a civil engineer and working for the municipality. Dr. Matikizela lectured in Rhodes University, was also involved in researches with University of Fort Hare, as well as Agricultural Research Council of South Africa, University of Pretoria, Eastern Cape Department of Agriculture. He is also a member of Economic Association of South Africa and International Association of Agriculture. Dr. Matikizela was involved in a number of other projects. He's served as an advisory board for MSc of Agriculture in Eastern Cape, guest speaker and at various ceremonies and high-level conferences. He was also one of the panelists in the World Bank. He was also one of the panelists in World Bank reports, Equity and Development, which was in 2005. Served as a judge in the panels of bank finance experts and graduation ceremonies, and presentations for IEDP candidates for 2011 at WITS. Dr. Matikizela was awarded a Doctor of Philosophy at the age of 25, and he made history as the first person to receive a PhD at that time. He's also been involved in a number of leadership programs and undertook various guest lectures at other business schools and and also involved in training and other short courses that I picked up in his CV. So without taking too much time, I'd like to give Dr. Madikizela the platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And good evening to everyone who's on the call. I would like to acknowledge the leadership of the UKZN Business School of Leadership and the university at large, with all protocol observed, senior leadership that is on this call, the VC who's hosting us, acting dean and HOD, and all the senior lecturers and senior executives which are on this call, the students who are on the call, and everyone else who's on the call, whether it is friends, his colleagues, whoever else who's joined us, all the guests across. I'm humbled by this opportunity to address you this evening. So without wasting time, let's then get into it. I will be sharing my screen very shortly, my presentation basically. So just as a precursor, I hope you can see the slide that is showing on the screen. Just to give context here, we are doing this obviously during the times we're living in, which is during the COVID-19 pandemic, which has been with us for close to 2 years now, more or less.
Excuse me, Dr. Madikizela, are you sharing your screen yet? We can't see anything.
I am sharing the screen. Let's see if you can, let me just make sure you can see it. Give me a second. You just confirm to me once you can see it. Not this one. Okay. Can you see it?
Something's coming up.
Something is coming up, okay.
Yes, we can see it now, thank you.
Okay, so you can see it, right?
Yes, if you can please put it in presentation mode. Yes.
Presentation mode, okay. Right. Can I roll now then? You can see it, right? Can you confirm you can see it?
Yes, we can,
Yes,
thank you.
Okay, no, thank you so much. Then, so the course strategy and organizational dynamics, as you can see. Now, the specific theme or topic that we're going to be dealing with is crafting and implementing business strategies during COVID-19 pandemic uncertainty. Now, as I've already mentioned, we are living in these very interesting times. Maybe if we just think back a few years ago, we were already talking about the fourth industrial revolution, where we're talking about the Internet of Things, we were talking about blockchain, where we're talking about really doing things differently, moving into the fourth industrial revolution. Now, be that as it may, then COVID came, and just to also to remind you, bringing context to this, we've got the VUCA world that we've been grappling with from 2017 already. Now, as you can see on the screen, the VUCA world is an abbreviation. It's an environment that is volatile, there's uncertainty, there's complexity, as well as ambiguity. Now, as part of the context, and for you to have a view of how we're gonna have the discussion, we'll touch on the following points. I'll give considerations in terms of crafting the strategy. I'll touch on the role of leadership, which is very crucial and important, governance and ethics, decision-making, importance of data for decision-making, and then, of course, implementation of the business strategies themselves. The challenges in implementing business strategies during COVID-19 pandemic, strategy itself being driven by people and the culture of the organization. What are the relevant skills which are required given the fourth industrial revolution and going forward? And then we'll conclude and have some discussion. Now, being practical about things, you've got to start with a vision first. For any organization or any company or any firm, there must be a vision. And the vision is simply the art of seeing things which are invisible. And the vision is simply your preferred picture of the future. Now, after you have the vision, which must be long-term in its nature, the vision must outlive you as a leader. So, and with the vision, then you may then have a strategy that will talk to the vision, which talks about the how part, how do you get there? You've got a dream, but how do you reach the dream? The most known Vision 2030 National Development Plan, which we are following as a country in South Africa, is a long-term plan. I believe this came around 2014. So it's long-term, it's supposed to be like that in nature. And I want to just put it up front to say for us as South Africans, I don't think we have a problem in coming up with visions. I don't think we've got a problem in coming up with plans. I don't think we've got a problem necessarily coming up with strategy. The challenge we have is on the implementation of these plans and strategies. There we lack quite a lot as a country, and that's where we really need to improve. Now, you can have a vision like you want to be the global financial services company. That's a big vision. It's a long-term vision. I mean, CEOs can come and go, and that vision will stand the test of time. It's long-term in nature. You could also have a company that has got a vision that wants to be the best home loan provider in South Africa. Now you can see that vision is limited to South Africa, whereas the other one is global, it's international. Now, in terms of the stage where the organization is at, it's important, it does matter before you craft the strategy. Because an organization can be a startup company. And I want to encourage people to start companies, to be entrepreneurs, because that's how we are going to create jobs. We've got a problem in the country of unemployment. We've just released the figures of 34.4% unemployment rate. That makes us the country in the whole world with the highest number of unemployed people, which is not good news for us. Remember that 34.4% is just a narrow definition of unemployment. If you look at the broader definition, which includes people who have given up looking for work, that number jumps up to 44.4%, which is an indictment for all of us, and we should be concerned. Again, South Africa is one of the countries which are high in the list in terms of being unequal. And poverty as well is one of the challenges. So this is commonly known as the triple challenge by the government: unemployment, inequality, and poverty. But then the company could also be a growing organization that wants to expand into other markets. You could also have a company that is matured, a matured organization that is almost been there for many years. And it could expand as well, even though it's matured. I'm sure most of the people on the call are familiar with the SWOT analysis, which looks at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and threats of the company. And also PESTEL may be quite familiar to some of the people on the call, where you've got to look at the political environment, because it's crucial, economic environment, the social aspects, technological aspects, the issues of environment, climatic issues, environmental issues, legislation, because we are a country that is legislated. And it's important to do competitor analysis, because you can't compete with yourself as an organization. You must look also at the market share that you have, do a bit of forecast for you to grow, make projections. So these matters are important. Now I'm gonna zoom into the role of leadership. Leadership is very, very important. It is Dr. John C. Maxwell, who I quote from, "Everything rises and falls on leadership." This statement is so crucial and critical, whether it's at a country level, whether it's a company, whether it's an organization, a firm, a government department, a state-owned entity, a state-owned company, whatever organization it is, private company, NGO, any company, whether it's a church for that matter. The leadership is so crucial. We need a leadership that is visionary in nature. Remember, I mentioned the vision earlier on. So you need visionary leadership that can look long-term and think big and have big dreams. Now, the character of the leader as well is very important. The leadership abilities are important. And the CEO, which will be the accounting officer or a DG in a government department, will not work alone. You've got the executive management team, COO, CFO, you've got other executives, in the company. They are part of leadership. Leadership also is at different levels. Leadership starts with you as a person. You've got to lead yourself first before you can lead other people. So everyone is included at leadership level. There's junior leadership, there's middle management leadership, there's senior management leadership, there's top leadership, and so on. Even at the board level, that's part of leadership. The board that plays an oversight role. So visionary leadership is critical and crucial in ensuring the success of any company. I subscribe to what we call the 3H leadership model. H, talking to the head. That's where the vision comes from. That's where your dream comes from. That's where the thinking comes from. That's where the strategy will emanate from the head. So you need to think. One of the bosses that I reported to in one of the companies, he used to say that as an executive, you are paid to think. You must think as an executive. You must be thinking all the time. That's why an executive never goes on leave. Even if you're on leave officially, you're always thinking because you don't stop thinking. You're always thinking about what should happen next. Now, the other H, which is important, talks to the heart. You must be a leader that has got a heart, that is caring for the staff, for the people that are in the company. Because remember, the people or the staff are the greatest asset that any organization has. If you take care of the people will take care of the customers. Without customers, you don't have a business. So in these times of COVID, it's very, very important that we need to be clear as leadership what comes first. We can't put profit before people. You can't put profit before people. People must come first. If you take care of the people, they will take care of the business. If you put the economy first before the people, you know, the economy might recover, but you lose the people. What are you going to do? But if you put your people first, you look after them, you prioritize their life, you save the people, the economy recovers, your people are there, your business can run, it can be sustainable. This is so important, it's so crucial. We can't put profit before people. It must be profit with a purpose. The lives are important of the people. Now, there are issues of anxiety, depression. People are going through quite a lot. There's uncertainty. The state of the economy is not encouraging. People are dying in large numbers. I mean, it's said that now we hear numbers of hundreds of people dying, maybe 300 people, 450 people, 500 people. And if it's 110 something people, then we say, no, the numbers are dying. It's a lot of people dying per day. Let me move on. The H, the third one, is hands. That's a doing part, the implementation, execution. You can't think all the time. You've got to think, but then you must go to implementation. And this is where we need to improve as a country, to implement and put into practice the plans. Let me move on to governance and ethic issues. This is so important, the governance. That's where the board comes in, playing oversight role into a company. It's important how we appoint the board members. Let's appoint people who are qualified, people who have got skills without fear of favor. We need people who can be accountable to the people that they are serving. We need people who can take responsibilities. Leadership is about influence. Leadership is not a position. Leadership is a function. You need to function. You need to be effective as a leader. You must make impact. You must create a legacy. You must be remembered and be known for something that is good. We need to stand up and be counted as leaders in the different roles that we're playing. What about issues of conflict of interest? This one is interesting because that's where issues of corruption come in. And we've got a problem of corruption in this country. It's so sad that we've got so much money. By right, there should be no single person in this country who goes to bed with an empty stomach. We've got enough money to take care of all the people who are in this country. We've got enough resources, but it's said that there are people that go to bed without eating because of corruption, because of theft, because of stealing, because of looting. And we can't tolerate that anymore. We need to stand out and we need to speak against it. Corruption is bad. We can't steal from the poor. We need to talk about corruption. We need to call a spade, not something to dig. We can't sugarcoat these issues because a lot of money is being stolen under our watch. We can't allow that to continue. Enough is enough. It must come to a stop. What about competency? Let's appoint people who are skilled, who are qualified, who are competent, who are experienced, who know what they're doing. You can't have the blind leading the blind. and then you expect that you're going to have marvelous results. It doesn't work like that. So skills are crucial and critical. And we've got skilled people in this country. I mean, you look at the unemployment that I've mentioned, high figures. How many people are qualified who are graduates who are competent, but who can't have access to jobs because they've got to pay a bribe to somebody for them to get a job? It shouldn't be like that. So what about the term of the board members? You can't have a board member who's appointed indefinitely and they never come to an end of the term. They are there forever. We need fresh blood. We need fresh thinking. We need people who are coming up with new ideas. We need a mix of the generational mix, the youth, young people coming on board. We need gender issues addressed with these leadership positions. What about legislation as well that we need to implement? There must be a rule of law in this country. I mean, the recent events of the few weeks where we had unrest, where we had destruction of property, burning of assets in this country, it's uncalled for by any standards. We can't tolerate issues like that. We must have law in this country. There must be order in this country. And the leaders must lead, must stand up and be counted and lead. Managers must manage, leaders must lead. We must lead from the front. We must lead by example. And we must not apologize for that. We need to do what is right. There's a Companies Act. There are King reports that are there that show us on how to deal with issues of ethics and governance issues. What about decision making? We need to be able to make decisions. A leader must make a decision. Make a decision, even if it's a wrong decision, make it. There are people who are so scared, who are so afraid to make decisions. Why are you in that position if you can't make decisions? People must send memos to you. They must write documents and piles of papers. And you sit with these papers, you don't make decisions. Make a decision, even if it's a wrong decision. If you make a mistake, learn from it and fix it. At least you've made a decision rather than to sit and not make a decision. We must make decisions, and agility is important. The speed, the velocity, sense of agency. You must make decisions and you need to think fast. You must move fast as a leader. You must act fast. So think fast, move fast, act fast. Sense of agency is very, very important. I mean, in some of the organizations, there's a lot of bureaucracy. In some of the state-owned entities, some of the state-owned companies, some of the government departments, some of the companies and businesses, even the banks for that matter, there are committees, people rely on committees. This must go to a committee where there's a lot of people that must sit there. A submission must be made in the committee. A presentation must be made into the committee before a decision is made. We can't be competitive if we work like that. So the speed is important. You must make decisions. But we must also be responsible in our decision making. Don't abuse the power. Don't abuse the authority that you have. Use it responsibly. But also one of the things I would like to address is about the acting positions. If you look at many organizations across public sector, private sector, there are a lot of people who are in acting positions. You know, sometimes it may not be the case all the time, but in some cases, people who are acting in positions don't want to make decisions because they are like working on borrowed time. They are acting in that position. They are taking care of the portfolio. Sometimes you must confirm the person. If the person is qualified, let them be appointed in the role. If a position becomes available, why do we wait before we fill the position? Advertise the position, recruit for the position, appoint the right person who's capable in the position, and let the person be confirmed and be permanent in the position and not act indefinitely, perpetually for a long period of time. I mean, if you look at the vacancy rates in many organizations, there's high vacancy rates, and yet we've got high unemployment. We've got a lot of people that are looking for jobs. Why don't we appoint people in those positions? Why don't we advertise the positions? Why don't we recruit and make decisions and appoint people? Because there's so many people who are qualified. Some have got PhDs, some have got master's degrees, some have got honors degrees, some have got junior degrees and so on, and they're not working. So we need to fill in the positions that are vacant across the whole country. Public sector, private sector, government departments, national government departments, provincial government departments, local government, the metros, district municipalities, local municipalities, all the municipalities across private companies, we need to fill in those vacant positions because there are budgets for them. I don't understand why don't you appoint people when people are there and they're unemployed. Let's make decisions. Decisions must be made, and the decisions that we make, they've got far-reaching implications. Obviously, you must apply your mind. You must consult. You can't consult forever. At some point, make a decision and stick by a decision and do make a decision which is in the best interest of the organization, which is not about you. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's bigger than you. Do it for the other people. That's why you are in the role that you are in. That's why you're posted in the position that you are in. So what about trust? We need to build trust with staff, with employees, with the people working from home now during the times that we are in COVID-19. Trust is so important, is so essential. I know there's managers who struggle with the people working from home. You need to trust the staff that they are responsible and that they are working. You don't need to see the person. They mustn't be in front of you necessarily for you to know that they are working. There are tools we can use. I've got a laptop. In the laptop that I'm using, there's an employee number, link that laptop. You can pull in data and stats, and you can see if I'm working. You can check if you want to macromanage me. You can check if I log on. You can check what time I logged on. If you can check the outcome. You can check the output. You can check the deliverables. Hold me accountable on the results that I'm supposed to deliver on, which are on the KPI, the key performance indicators, which are on the contract that we've signed, which are on the balance scorecard that we have agreed between me and my manager. So check if I'm delivering on the results, the outcomes. I don't have to be in front of you for me to work. I can be in front of you, I can be in the office, I can be in the computer. There's no guarantee that I'm working. I can go on the internet, I can be playing games and I'm in the office and I'm in front of you, I'm not working. I could be searching the net, I could be reading news, I could be on News 24, I could be going to all kinds of sites. It doesn't mean I'm working because I'm in front of you and I'm in front of the computer and I'm in the office. So we need to be progressive in our thinking and we need to move with the times as the managers, as the leaders. Now, what about the relief programs that we have introduced to help the companies in terms of the COVID-19? I'm addressing one of the questions that came in proactively from one of the students. There's a lot of relief programs which have been announced by the president. We'll remember there was a 500 billion package. We know that it's not new money, all of it. I mean, we know more than 200 billion was funds which were redirected from the budget, but that's neither here nor there. We just need to know that there was a package provided, and let's make sure that that money is used and it is used appropriately and it is used responsibly. That is not stolen. It doesn't go to where it's not supposed to go. But there are schemes that the banks, for example, through BASA, the Banking Association of South Africa, all the banks, where they were using that 200 billion that was made available as well by the government through the National Treasurer, through SARB, South African Reserve Bank, where the banks could sort of use that money to mitigate the risk that they have for them to lend. So there were a lot of relief programs, there were a lot of budgets. Not all that money was used. Some of the money has not been used. I mean, there was funds from the unemployment insurance, UIF, the unemployment insurance program, the UIF Unemployment Insurance Fund from the Department of Labor. There's funds there. There was a test program. There's funding there. Not all that money was used, and so on. There's all kinds of reliefs that were provided by the government. Now, what about the data importance? In the times we are living in, data is so important. Data is so crucial for us to make decisions. We need to be able to use data. We need to be able to use science, to use research, to make decisions which are well informed. I'm quoting here one of my colleagues from FNB, Dr. Mark Nasila, is our Chief Analytics Officer. He wrote a nice piece in August on how do we use the data to use the technology to make to disrupt the market. I mean, think about Checkers and Shoprite Checkers. They've actually come up with the no-tills technology. It's called the Checkers X journey, a new intervention and innovation that they've come up with, where you can walk into a store, You don't need to speak to anybody. You can walk into a store, you can take the trolley, you can do shopping and pick up all the items you need. As you leave the store, there is a credit card that you can then tap, and then it pays all the items. There's technology. If you put something back on the shelf, the technology knows to take that back from your grocery shop list. If you take something else, the technology can recognize that. You see, so there is technology, there is innovation, which is using data. Companies like your Amazon are doing so well. Companies like your Google are doing so well. Companies like your Microsoft, think about Microsoft, which we have been using on MS Teams, with all the meetings we've had, all the times, the hours, the minutes. You can imagine the share price for them. They are making a lot of money when other companies are losing money. It's all about seeing the opportunities that we can identify and also implementing those business strategies. Now, the strategy must be long-term. The strategy must be versatile. The strategy must be agile. You need to be able to tweak the strategy, adapt it to the times. If you've got a strategy that is long-term, it can actually take you through time, even during the times like the COVID-19. I'll give you an example that's practical. There's an institution that I know, which is in the finance sector, is doing lending. The strategy for them is to bring good quality business on the books. That's their strategy. That company has had 180 years of existence. It's been around. The strategy is simple. We will write good quality business in our books. They will take less risk in terms of the loans that they are writing to the business. So that's the strategy that they have. Over time, the strategy has lived. It has kept them strong. They're strong financially. Their financials are robust. They're performing well. They don't talk the language of retrenching even during these times because they've got a strategy that works. Even during COVID-19, they use the same strategy. They just tighten lending a little bit to take risk on the low risk customers. Again, writing good quality business on the books. They are taking risk, but responsibly in terms of the way that they lend. You see, that's one strategy. Another strategy by, let's say, a competitor in the same business is having a high risk appetite. They write business. In fact, it becomes even a joke to say, if that particular institution declines you as a customer, then you must be very bad in terms of your credit bureau, because they are known to have high risk appetite. Now, that strategy has got ups and downs, advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage of it is that then they will attract even bad customers who will default. They will have high impairments. They will have high default rate, and they might write off most of the business. But that's their strategy. It helps them. They've got high and big market share because that's the strategy that they follow. So there's ups and downs. And then they might lose more money than the other institution that is kind of prudent in terms of the risk that they take. So, but the data is so important. I mean, there is a lot of data. If you look at 2020, 1 trillion gigabytes, it's a lot of data that has been used, has been generated to make decisions. And this is projected to grow about 160 zettabytes by 2025. So we need to use the data. We need to rely on data to make decisions. Let me move on because I want us to have time to engage. Implementation of the business strategies. This is so crucial. Implementation, and implementation. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's get our hands dirty and implement so that we can see the results. The results will not come. There's a lot of nice glossy documents. If you look at the municipalities, they've got the IDPs, integrated development plans. They are glossy documents. They are 5-year plans. They are beautiful documents produced by consultants. Some of them are sitting on the shelves. They're gathering dust. You are not going to see the results because you've got a nice document. You are going to see the results if you take that strategy, you implement it, you put it into practice, you apply it, you will see the results. We've got beautiful programs in South Africa. We've got beautiful strategies. The National Development Plan itself is a beautiful document, well written, but we need to implement it and implement it, accelerate the implementation. We need to implement it fast so that we can see the results. So this is a big problem that we have in South Africa in general, the implementation. We need just to tell the truth. It will set us free. Now, if you look at government, public sector, it's a major problem. And I'm sure we can relate to this. Just look at the service delivery protests that you have, where people are calling for services, whether it is houses, whether it is water, whether it is electricity, whether it is toilets. Look at the schools where we've got pit latrines, where in some cases we've got sad stories of learners drowning into these toilets and so on. So there are service delivery challenges that we see. People are saying we've been waiting for services. So we need to implement fast. The slow implementation of programs and projects and policies is what is killing us as a country. As I've said, we've got very sound policies. They're good on paper, but implementation is lacking. I did an interview in 2006. The same statement, if I make it today, is still relevant in 2021. Not much has changed. Now, national government, national department, they are responsible for policy development, policy formulation, but they're not responsible for implementation. The provincial government departments, they coordinate. The funds, they flow from national government through the budget vote. They go to the provinces, and then they must go to local government, which is the third sphere of government, local government. That is a sphere that is so crucial. It's closer to the people. That's where the implementation must take place. But however, we've got severe challenges of capacity at the local government level, lack of skills, whether it is finance. I mean, just look at the Auditor General report. What does it say? I mean, it's about 20% of the municipalities in the country which are in good state, financially speaking. Most of them, there's 256 municipalities in the country. Most of them, the majority of them, they are not looking good in terms of skills. And yet we've got people who are qualified. We've got people who are unemployed. Why don't we appoint people who've got skills there, who are finance people, engineers, technical people, project managers, who can implement these projects? Remember, I mentioned the ITPs, they are at the municipal level. And this is one of the problems we have, to fail to make a distinction between political positions. There are positions which are political. Your executive mayor is a political appointment. The members of the mayoral council, MMCs, are political appointments. The councillors are political appointments. Your ward councillors, PR councillors, those are political appointments. We know that, we accept that. But then you've got technical people, technocrats, or officials, civil servants, your Section 27 managers in the municipalities. This is the problem that I've observed and I've seen it. And this is where we are getting things wrong as a country. For as long as we allow the lines to cross and to be blurred between the political positions and technical positions, then we've got a problem. Let me give a quick practical example. I know in some of the municipalities, you would have a person who's executive mayor for a certain time. Then the same person, they become a city manager or municipal manager. Now, this municipal manager is an accounting officer. And now the other person who's executive mayor, politically, they may not be heavyweight. The city manager may be a heavyweight politically. Now they have to account to the executive mayor, which may be junior to him or her. And that there lies a problem of accountability. And then now there's squabbles, then there's factions, there's infighting and so on. We do see this even in national government departments. I mean, look at the Department of the Police. We know it's public information. There is tension between the minister and the national commissioner. Now look at the stats, crime stats, which have been released recently. They are high. So why are we having issues like that? The national minister himself was a national commissioner some time back. He was in that position. So that's why you then have encroaching of the scope, the interference. It's issues like that that we need to resolve, that we know about, but we don't solve them. And then we expect that things are going to work and work well. It doesn't work like that. So we must fix the problems that we have. We need to be bold and confront these issues and sort them out and fix them. They're not going to fix themselves. We must fix them. That's what leaders must do. Now, carrying on with the challenges in terms of implementing business strategy during COVID-19 pandemic, I've mentioned about working from home. This could be challenging with the levels of lockdown. I mean, at lockdown level 5, 4, where at one stage children were at home, schools were closed and so on. We've got to navigate and balance this, having children at home, working from home, and the children also learning from home, studying online. This is the new normal. These are the issues we've got to deal with. Connectivity issues in certain parts of the country where people can't connect and they're working from home. What about data issues? Issues running out, data running out, for example, issues of data running out before the end of the month when we started with some of the companies not knowing how much data to give to their own staff. These are the practical issues that we've had to resolve. What about the adjustment? I've mentioned this about some of the managers who may have people in the office and they may struggle with people working from home. I've talked to that already earlier on. What about some of the employees who could not use to work from home for a number of reasons? They just want to rush back to the office for a number of reasons. In some cases, there's limited space at home. In some cases, there's domestic violence between couples, husband and wife and partners. So it's better when the person leaves from home early in the morning and they're at work for the rest of the day to deal and cope with the situation. And they look for every reason to work until late at home and delay coming back home because there's issues at home, which are issues of domestic violence. Now, if both of them, they've got to be here at home and work together. These are the issues that must be dealt with, issues of anxiety and depression. And sometimes you need counseling. And some of these issues, they require a spiritual intervention. And that's where you can also have the role of the church as well, playing a role in counseling people, and also some of the experts like psychologists, psychiatrists, and so on, where people must go for counseling and look for help. Now, let me come to the issue of the skills very quickly. I must pick up my pace. The skills, what are the skills which are relevant now? If you take a newspaper on the weekend, whether it's a Sunday Times, you look on the careers session, whether it's a City Press, whatever newspaper it is, even online, you will always find out that there are positions that are there that are advertised. Could there be an issue that there's a mismatch between the skills that the market requires there, which is what I call demand-driven skills, market-driven skills, the skills that are required by the market versus the skills that we are producing. Now, as a business school, as universities, we need to ask ourselves the question, how relevant are the skills of the graduates that we are producing year after year? Is there a mismatch? Are we producing people that the market requires, or there's a mismatch there? We need to have those conversations. We need to adjust, we need to adapt, because we must be relevant in terms of the skills that we are producing. It's a digital world now. Digital transformation, for example, in the financial sector, it's a big issue. This is not just only limited to the financial services sector. It is a case in all other sectors, whether it's government, public sector, other sectors in the economy, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's mining, whether it's agriculture, all the sectors of the economy, you can name them. There's a significant increase in demand for technology and security skills in the market. There is greater focus on digital innovation in financial services and other sectors of the economy. So we need to shift towards a digital economy, digital market, which has been driven by the COVID-19 pandemic. Some companies, organizations, which have got leaders that are visionaries, they think ahead of time. I know of organizations that 5 years ago, they already adopted the principle of people working from home before COVID. As a result, it was not a struggle for them to adopt this working from home. But other companies had to struggle because they were not ready. The technology wasn't there. The capability was not there. The infrastructure was not there. Some of them are municipalities, metros, government departments, and so on. So one of the commercial banks, for example, indicated that they have to be highly disruptive in terms of attracting skills, especially now. They've mentioned this over the last year, 2020 already. So in terms of banking services, there's been an evolution of the skills rapidly in terms of growing the digital market, digital world, digital economy, your mobile skills, your online banking, for example, the app. You need to have the app. It's such a powerful device, the cell phone, that you have the smartphone. You can do all the things there. There's no reason for you to go and visit the bank. You can do your banking on the cell phone, for example, if you've got an app. But there's physical branches as well where you can visit. But the branches have been shrinking. One of the banks has closed down some branches have moved away from having many branches so that customers can self-service, they can use technology, for example. So the capacity of the organization is crucial. The capacity of the firm, the government department, the institution is crucial, that they must be capacitated in terms of infrastructure, IT, technology, infrastructure. They must have the equipment. They must be able to have security, the IT architect of the companies to be able to support all these things. It's important that we need to evolve and move faster with pace and accelerate and adapt so that we are relevant in terms of embracing the new ways of doing things. Strategy is driven by people and culture. People are so important. I've spoken to the importance of people when I spoke about leadership. People are so important. Strategy will be driven by people. So there must be a continued focus on developing people. Let's develop the people. Let's equip the people. Let's train them. Let's invest in the people in terms of technology skills, things like your cloud initiatives. I've mentioned companies like your Amazon, for example. There's an institution, one of the banks that is doing this. They've come out to say they're going to be recruiting 250 people. Another institution has come out to say they'll be recruiting 300 people. Another one, 300 people as well. So, but they need these skills. The question is, do we have graduates with these skills? That's a challenge that we have as business schools. That's a challenge we have as universities. We need to be relevant and we need to produce. And there are opportunities for this, for those who are involved in businesses like in HR, where they hire people and so on. It's opportunities. Moving fast. These are some of the skills I'll just project: data science, cloud security, machine learning, product specific skills, data engineering, and so on. Another bank as well, they came out and they made a call, and they even decried the issue of the people, the talent that has left the country, that those people must come back to the country. Those skills we must use in the continent as well. They're going to be recruiting 300 additional skills, 300 people that they need. The question is, do we have those skills? These are the skills there. I'm flashing them on the screen quickly. Industrial engineers, software developers, cloud engineers, cybersecurity specialists, data, the quants, systems and solution architects, test engineers, chemical, mechanical engineers, actuaries. You see, business and systems analysts, customer and user experience specialists. Customer experience is a big issue now in some of the companies. Another player, 300 positions along the same lines. This is one of the institutions. It's in the financial services. They're in the lower end of the market. They are well known in terms of unsecured lending. Just to give you a hint, they're based in Cape Town, in Stellenbosch. I've just given it out there on purpose. I'm sure you can make out who that company is. These are the skills that they need: business analysis skills, developers, analysis skills, data engineers. They are similar: business intelligence, BI analysts. These are the skills which are sought after. Now, this is another analogy that I would like to give you very quickly. Platform. What about a company like this one in the motor industry, in the automobile industry? Here is the chassis of the company. This same chassis, it can be used. It's a single platform. But this is a strategy that they've followed. This strategy is long-term. It's multi-pronged. It's diverse. It's dynamic. It can be used across 4 brands. Audi, for example, Volkswagen, Skoda. They can use the same chassis. They can produce all these companies. Jetta with the same chassis. The VW Touareg, same chassis. VW Golf. What about VW Passat? The same. You see, this is the power of using platform. You can use the same chassis. That is a company that is thinking ahead, using a strategy. This is an analogy of an X journey where they are thinking ahead. You see, now why this approach is important? It's about efficiency, the speed, quality, driving down the costs, economies of scale. You can scale up with this strategy. This chassis is scalable across all models. Cost efficient, centralized problem solving, allows for flexibility to shift production as the demand shifts. It's a common core for all the drives there, the trains. Whether using gasoline, diesel, natural gas, hybrid, pure electric, you use the same. Different models to be manufactured on the same plant, you see. But the customer, it's got the same user experience, the driver. They don't experience the platform. They just experience the entire solution. You see, when they enjoy this, you can see the picture there. And in conclusion, so that I can take questions before I run out of time, I've already mentioned examples of companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Netflix. They're very successful under the current conditions. Why? Because they see the opportunity. Why? Because they've got a strategy that is versatile. They've got a strategy that is long-term. They've got visionaries who could see. And let's invest in these companies and have shares in these companies and own some of these businesses. Why some organizations are way ahead than their peers? Is it because of leadership? Probably under the same environment, under the same economic conditions. Does it boil down to courageous leadership and visionary leadership? I want to suggest it comes down to that. What about the capacity of these organizations in terms of digital infrastructure and technology, as I've mentioned? What about the ability of leveraging on data, mining of the data, interpretation of the data, analytics of the data? How relevant are the skills that we're supplying as universities, as business schools? Are they market related? This is where I will stop and then I'll take questions. Can I hand over back to you then? I'll take questions. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Madikizela. Very well-rounded and a holistic view with approaches on how we can really start crafting strategies in these uncertain times. We have a number of questions, Dr. Madikizela, that have been prepared. But we also have one question that's come up in the Q&A section, and I'd like us to start with that one, please. The first question says, is working from home helpful to customers? Because some companies have auto replies that warn customers of delays in response to queries due to working from home. Is there an alternative that will not drop customer service standards?
Yes, certainly. Yes. I like that question. Very quickly, so that I can take as many questions as I can. We need to empower customers. There's something called self-service. Some of the customers, they need things like a statement, for example. They're requesting a bank statement. Well, I know what my bank statement is. The power of the technology of the cell phone that you have, a smartphone. The reality of the matter is you can go online, you can self-service, you can view your statement, for example. So we need to empower the customers so that they're able to self-service, so that they're independent and not rely on the bank on all the services. So one of the ways to do it is to give the power to the customers. Because remember, it's COVID-19. There are risks that are involved where we don't want to spread the pandemic as well. So with the working from home, definitely we need to also be agile in the way that we think, both customers, both companies and staff. But let's empower the customers. Let them navigate. Let's handhold them. Some of them, I know, they're not comfortable with the technology. So they want to speak to somebody. So they can visit the branches, right? The branches are open, but then they must comply to all the regulations in terms of wearing the mask, social distancing, they must sanitize for some of the matters that require face-to-face interaction. But those should be minimal in most of the cases. Thanks. Next question, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doctor. The next question really speaks to what you spoke about, and as far as the triple, I just want to remember what the terminology is, the triple challenge that we have: inequality, unemployment, as well as poverty. We know that with COVID-19, there have been a number of job losses. Many small-scale farmers have embarked on growing their agricultural businesses. However, they are faced with being crowded out by the larger scale farmers. What strategies, you did speak about what the state is doing, but we're eager to hear what strategies farmers should adopt to penetrate that main market in order to reach the required levels of trade.
Thank you so much for that question. So it's very simple there. It's about economies of scale, right? The small scale farmers must work together because it's about bargaining as well. You need economies of scale, you need volumes. So you are familiar with the co-ops, for example, where people come together. They've got a voice, they can bargain if they order, for example, materials, the inputs, your fertilizer, your seeds, they all order as a group, they can bargain, they can negotiate a better price, but also twinning arrangement with the established commercial farmers and those who are emerging farmers. They can work together as neighbors, there can be joint ventures, there can be mentoring programs there where there's a cross sharing of the skills and so on. So we encourage, and there's also extension officers as well, who are advisors from the Department of Agriculture, who are at hand from the ARC, who can give advice. But it's about bargaining. It's about the economies of scale. It's about volumes. So if those small-scale farmers, instead of each one of them working as an individual and trying to negotiate prices alone, if they come together, they organize themselves, they can have a voice, they can lobby the government, they can lobby funders, they can lobby the market, they can have access to market, and so on. So it's all about really being smart about how they work together. Let's work together. Let's embrace the diversity that we have as a country. We are stronger together as South Africans. We are diverse, and yet we are so powerful when we work together, when we learn from each other, when we are there for each other. You know, to deal with all the issues, even in the farms, there's crime. When we have those neighborhood watches, when we come together, we have the community policing forums and work together with all the institutions, whether it's from government, private sector, and so on. So there's power in unity. There's power in numbers, in volumes, in scale. You know, united, we are stronger. Divided, we fall. Hashtag stronger together. Let's unite and work together and learn from each other. Thanks. Can I answer another question, please?
Thank you. The next question, Doctor, is in relation to crafting and implementing business strategies in the current times, specifically looking at diversity and inclusion. We see that there's been in society, and this really highlights, amongst other issues, the lack of unity in the country, with KZN as an example, you know, of very acute instances of inequality. What do you think are the genuine and effective strategies that should be considered by businesses to foster unity, especially but not limited to racial unity? And what should be considered in as far as internal as well as external stakeholders are concerned by business?
Yes. So to me, we must look at the big picture. There's a big picture and there's a long-term view. You see, if I'm going to look at my shoes, to say my shoes are polished, my shoelaces are tied, that's a narrow approach. Sometimes we're internally focused. We need to think big. We need to work together. We need to form smart partnerships. We need to have partnerships between public and private sector. You know, the public-private partnerships, the triple PPPs, public-private partnerships between government, private sector, and even the people as well. Let's work together as businesses. You know, I know some of us, for example, we studied during the apartheid regime. We studied under Bandi education. I'm revealing my age, but it's fine. So we were taught that you need to then look for a job after you've qualified. But we need to change and have the entrepreneurship spirit. The SMMEs, small, macro, medium enterprises, where we should encourage people to open businesses so that they can create jobs. Successful economies, successful countries, government is not going to create jobs. Government's role is to come up with policy and create an enabling environment for jobs to be created, to come up with legislation that is user-friendly for companies to start businesses, to reduce the cost, to eliminate the barriers to start businesses. You see, that's what we must encourage, for people to establish businesses and work together across the racial lines. We must work together. We belong here. This is our country. If we mess up our country, we burn buildings, we destroy our country, that is just foolishness. It's just pure stupidity. And the people that suffer are the people in the lower end of the market and the income bracket. People must not be used. People must think. Just think, apply your mind. You can't be used to say, destroy the shop where you're working. Tomorrow you don't have a job. I mean, that's just pure stupidity. So our people must just wake up and smell the coffee. They must ask for wisdom, our people. They mustn't be used against themselves to destroy their very own future, to destroy this country. We've got a beautiful country. People must travel and see what's happening in their countries. We've got a country where it's a world in a country. What a beautiful country we have, but we're busy running it down ourselves. We're busy burning it into the ground. That is pure stupidity to do that. I don't care who says what, and I'm known for speaking my mind without fear or favor. And I stand by what I say, and I can justify it, because no one can tell me it is right. Just to wake up and burn the shops and destroy what we have. We destroy libraries, we destroy schools, we ban these things. Tomorrow we're asking for the same things. It's going to come from the government doesn't have money. My tax, your tax, and the company tax, that's where the money comes from, the budget comes from. Government doesn't have the money, it comes from me and you. And who is the government? It's us. We are the government. You cannot show me one person who's called the government. Government is us. So we must then have a revelation that we are shooting ourselves in the foot if we are destroying our own country ourselves. For whatever reason that is, it cannot be justified. I don't care who says what. Thanks. Any other question?
Yes. We've got 4 more minutes for a few more questions. So colleagues, if you have any other thoughts that you'd like Dr. Madikizela to reflect on, please make use of this opportunity by clicking on the Q&A section. The next question we have, Dr. Madikizela, is many of us here are employed by government entities, and we often feel that the platform to engage in strategic work is limited. This is further exacerbated by the pandemic. Having worked in both the private sector and the public sector, what advice do you have for government employees that are wanting to operate in more strategic spaces?
Thank you so much for the question. It's very simple. You just need to raise your hand. You must show up. You need to stand out and be counted. You see, I work for government as well. I mean, in my almost 30 years working experience from 1st August 1992, my career began with government, Department of Agriculture and Forestry in the Eastern Cape in Mthatha, in Boraskau. So you've got to raise your hand. You need to have confidence, believe in yourself, show up, raise your hand. You must also take the initiative. Your own destiny is in your hand. Your manager is not going to think about your own development. We've got the IDPs, the individual development plans, or PDRs, performance development plans and reviews, PDPs, that we use for the scorecards, where you are asked to say, where do you see yourself in 5 years, in 3 years? What are your plans? Which areas do you need training? What skills do you require, and so on? So you need to just raise your hand and take the initiative. Even though you work for government, you can participate in conferences. You can be a speaker in conferences. You can conduct research whilst you work for government. You can publish a paper. You can publish the paper in the conference. You can also solve the problems that we have. You can be involved in projects. You can start up a project. You can apply for funding. No one can stop you from doing that. So I take it back on you to say, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop believing and behaving like a victim. Stop looking at your manager, your supervisor, to think for you that Simpiwe needs training now. You need to raise your hand and show up. Take your own career development. It's in your hands. Do something about it. Most of the companies, there's a budget in HR for learning and development. There's bursaries. They pay for you to study, to enhance your skills, to upskill yourself. You skill yourself in the areas where I've shown that there's more skills which are required. Let the company know that you are an asset to the organization. It's about adding value, add value, deliver and perform in the position that you are in so that you can shine there, so that management, leadership can notice you and you can be promoted. And you can also look out, network as well. You must network with people external to your organization. Talk to people outside the organization. The networks, on your phone, what numbers do you have there? Social media, what are you using social media for? Are you using the Twitter productively? Are you using LinkedIn, for example, for professionals, to network, to interact with people? Which groups are you following? How productive are you using your time? Are you using your time meaningfully? How much of your time are you dedicating for your own development, to upskill yourself? Or are you using most of your time just to worry about who's posting what, who's wearing what, who's attending what party, where? If you're using your time like that, I want to suggest to you, use your time productively. Focus, ask God for wisdom. Who is your maker? Ask for wisdom from God. You will have direction. I take it back to you. Lead yourself before you can lead anybody else. Leadership starts with you. You've got to lead yourself first before you can lead anybody else. Some people can't even get into a meeting on time. They can't be punctual. You can't even take yourself into a meeting and then you think people will take you seriously. You are known to be fashionable late. You come late in meetings, everybody already knows. You tell people it was because of traffic. Where did everybody else travel? In the same traffic. Some people stay even far from where you are. The only difference is they woke up late, they've given themselves 2 hours, 3 hours to get there, they are there on time. Yourself, you couldn't manage your time, you come late, and you think people will take you seriously. Your reports are always late. Your work is always shoddy, the quality of what you produce. So think about those things to say, what is my contribution myself in advancing my career and my own development? Before you point fingers into your manager, your boss, before you say people are jealous of you, before you say people are not giving you opportunities, what are you doing yourself about your own career growth and advancement? I take it back to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, Doc. We've run out of time, but I think there's three questions, which I think we can group into one. And they really pertain to the state of our government entities. Just the fact that many of them are on the brink of liquidation, and without state funding, many of them actually will not survive. In addition to that, these state-owned entities are bloated and most often don't have the skills that are required. What turnaround strategy would you think it would be appropriate in order to save these entities? I also want to just tag to this question one that says, in your opinion, if we're looking at our universities that are also besieged with financial constraints, how can they also come out of the conundrum that they're facing?
Yes, no, thank you so much. It comes back to leadership, basically. Those organizations, state-owned entities, they need a complete overhaul. A complete overhaul. You know, like take Eskom, for example, there's an unbundling of Eskom into the 3 different entities, right? Take SAA as an example. Now they've got an equity partner, private sector partner. But if you think about it, for many years, SAA, we've been pumping billions and billions and billions of rands, bailouts and so on. But if you don't fix the leadership, you're just throwing money in a dark hole. You're throwing money in a dark hole. We've done that for many years. So you do the same thing, the same way, you expect different results. I'm not gonna say what that is. We know what that is, right? You see, you can't do the same thing and expect different results. So they need a complete overhaul. We need to sometimes be very honest and be frank to say we failed to do this. We failed to run this entity. We don't have the right people. We don't have the right board. Appoint the right board with the right skills. Appoint the right executive team qualified in the areas and the sectors of those businesses. Bring competent people, do a clean up, a complete overhaul of those entities and run them like proper businesses. They can't be over bloated. You see, costs are an issue. You need, one of the 3 generic competitive strategies. One is the one that talks about differentiation. How do you differentiate yourself and set yourself apart from the rest, from the competitors? You might just need to have a strategy that is a focus, where it's a unique market, where it's a niche market that you service, and you distinguish yourself from the rest, right? The other one can be a cost leadership strategy, where you bring down the cost. But if you look at the top line, the income, you grow your income, you grow the revenue, you manage your costs, you keep your costs down, all of a sudden your cost to income ratio becomes a non-issue, you see. But you can't bloat it and just appoint people left, right, and center, appoint people who are not qualified, bring your relatives because you are there, and you lower the bar, you reduce the standards, and then you expect that this organization is going to be profitable. It's not going to happen. We just don't need to kid ourselves. Universities, for me, research is one of the key issues with the universities. I think we know when you look at the university rankings, research is important, research output, the graduates you produce, the PhDs you produce, the sectors where you produce, for funding. So we can raise funding internationally. There is funding available that we must compete for. You need best researchers which are A-rated and all these things who are producing good quality research, because research is a key element in a university. Obviously, you are teaching, but the research is important. You're producing graduates, good quality graduates. Remember the skills I mentioned. What skills are you producing? We might be producing a lot of skills that maybe are not necessarily relevant to the market. For as long as we continue to do that, we're going to have graduates who sit unemployed. But if we just try and match the skills to what the market requires, if we try and contribute in research, which is problem solving, if you conduct research, you conduct it because there's a problem to solve. No problem to solve, there should be no need for you to do research. Do research which is practical, which is relevant, that is problem solving to our country. We add value. That's some of the things that we can do as well as universities.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Madikizela. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. We are out of time. I would like to hand over to Dr. Basela just to say a word of thanks.
Thank you so much, Program Director. I must say I don't have the energy that the guest speaker has, but I think from now onwards, I will learn that energy and be very agile as well. Thank you, Program Director, for your distinctive emceeing skills. You're quite energetic and very eloquent. It shows that you've done the strategy and organizational dynamics at UKZN. So I'm happy to see you excelling as well. Thank you so much to the team that has assisted us in organizing this event, the Public Relations, ARAC, and your team, and of course to our Dean and to the whole college and the university community. And to my senior colleague, Umlondi, thank you so much, big brother. But I just want, before I say thank you to you, Dr. Madikizela, to say, well, the strategy of the institution, of course, is to be a premium university, but much more to that, the strategy of the institution, so of the Graduate School of Business, is to engage actively and provide solutions to the community at large, to South Africa at large. And you've assisted us in terms of bridging the theory with practicality and equipping our students so that they become strategists in their organizations and so that they become excellent leaders. As you've said, leadership is quite important. We are quite grateful that you have come and delivered such a powerful address. And I must say your skills are quite diverse. You've worked for government, you've worked for the private sector, and you're also in academic as well. So you understand all these dynamics. You really know that triple helix is the way to go, where university links with the private sector as well as government to create something magnificent. So as a way of saying thank you, you've subjected yourself to be part of University of KwaZulu-Natal Graduate School of Business. We will obviously call upon you to assist going forward in these seminars. Thank you so much. And thank you to each and every one of you who has attended this webinar. We shall see you next time. This is not the last one. We will obviously have more. Thank you so much. And thank you to the class, to my class. And thank you to people who are guests and friends of the institution. I hope those who came as guests, they will be joining us as students next year. And I hope in your organization as well, you will recommend KwaZulu-Natal as an institution of choice so that we help in developing the skills that are required and the skills that are needed by the private sector. I hope this collaboration will go forward. I hope you'll assist the institution also in organizing funds so that we give bursaries to students so that we equip ourselves as well, because we do need to be equipped. We do need to invest in technologies, but of course we are constrained. Thank you so much, Doc. And thank you so much to to each and every one of you. Thank you, colleagues. Have yourselves a good weekend. Thank you so much. Cheers.